The full moon hung heavy in the sky, an oppressive, watchful eye casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The air, crisp and cool, carried the damp earth. Each breath Alara took was filled with the essence of the forest, grounding her yet making her feel more vulnerable. A low mist clung to the ground, swirling and shifting like a restless spirit. It moved with an almost sentient quality, as if it had a mind of its own. The forest, normally a place of peace for Alara, tonight felt different. It felt predatory, as if the trees themselves were watching her every move. Alara shivered, pulling her shawl tighter around her. The chill in the air seemed to seep into her bones, making her feel even more isolated. She was alone, far too far from the safety of her cottage. The familiar path seemed to have vanished, swallowed by the darkness. Why had she wandered so deep into the woods? What had compelled her to leave the warmth and safety of her home? A strange pull, an unsettling energy, hummed beneath the usual tranquility of the woods. It was as if the forest itself was alive, breathing and calling out to her. She felt drawn to it, yet deeply afraid. The duality of her emotions left her paralyzed, unable to move forward or retreat. A twig snapped in the distance. The sound echoed through the silent forest, amplifying her fear. Alara froze, her heart pounding against her ribs. Each beat felt like a drum, loud and insistent, her breath caught in her throat. She dared not make a sound, fearing what might be lurking in the shadows. She could have sworn she saw a pair of eyes glinting at her from the shadows. They seemed to pierce through the darkness, locking onto her, golden eyes burning like hot coals. They were unblinking, unwavering, and filled with an ancient predatory intelligence. Fear, sharp and cold, shot through her. She turned to run, her feet barely touching the ground as she fled through the forest, driven by pure instinct. But her legs felt heavy, like lead. The air grew thick and tasted metallic. A low growl rumbled in the distance, drawing closer. Panic seized Alara. She was trapped. The eyes in the darkness blinked, slow and deliberate. They were toying with her. The growl grew louder, closer. Something was hunting her. But what? Alara had never encountered anything like this in all her years living near these woods. This was something ancient, something primal, something monstrous. Then the moon, as if reflecting the horror of the situation, turned a sickly shade of red. The blood moon, they called it, an omen of ill fortune. Alara knew with a sickening certainty that whatever was hunting her was about to find its prey, and she was the hunted. A searing pain ripped through Alara's body. It began in her teeth, a pressure building until it felt like they would burst from her gums. Her jaw ached, stretching, contorting. A scream rose in her throat, but it died before it could escape her lips. The sound that emerged was something else entirely, a guttural, primal roar. Her bones began to crack and shift beneath her skin, her fingers elongated, nails hardening into thick, curved claws. Agony, unlike anything she had ever known, consumed her. Her vision blurred, the world around her dissolving into a kaleidoscope of pain and terror. She was losing herself. She was becoming something else. Her spine lengthened, pushing against her skin until it tore, spilling blood onto the forest floor. Fur, thick and coarse, erupted from her pores, covering her body in a rush of heat. Her hands, now gnarled claws, scraped against the earth as she struggled to maintain her balance. This new body, this monstrous form, was alien to her, yet somehow it felt right. The pain was unbearable, a symphony of snapping bones and tearing flesh. Alara thrashed on the ground, her screams echoing through the silent woods. She wanted to stop it, to claw at her own skin, to tear away the beast that was consuming her from the inside out. But she was helpless, a puppet dancing to the macabre tune of the blood moon. As suddenly as it began, the pain subsided, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Alara lay panting on the forest floor, her human clothes ripped to shreds around her new, powerful form. The transformation had been brutal, but now she felt an unfamiliar strength coursing through her veins. She looked down at her hands, now covered in thick, dark fur and tipped with razor-sharp claws. These were no longer the hands of a human. They were the tools of a predator. Her breath escaped in ragged gasps, her chest heaving with each inhale. The air felt different, richer, filled with scents she had never noticed before. The scent of blood, her own blood, filled her nostrils. It was metallic and intoxicating, awakening something deep within her. Instead of revulsion, she felt hunger. A hunger that was more than just a need for food. It was a craving for life itself. A deep, primal hunger, unlike anything she had ever known, gnawed at her insides. It was as if her very soul was crying out for sustenance. It wasn't the familiar pang of an empty stomach. This was something far more profound, a need that went beyond mere survival. It was a visceral need, a burning desire for something more, something raw. The thought of tearing into flesh, of tasting blood, sent a shiver down her spine. The scent of fear, sharp and tangy, wafted to her on the night breeze. It mingled with the scent of the forest, creating a heady cocktail that made her senses reel. It ignited a spark in her blood, a thrill of anticipation. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. She was a predator now. Every fiber of her being was attuned to the hunt, to the chase, and the hunt was on. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting eerie shadows as she moved silently through the forest, her senses on high alert. The forest, once a source of peace and tranquility, now pulsed with unseen life. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, was a symphony of sound to her heightened senses. The scent of prey, a heady mix of fear and musk, filled her nostrils, guiding her through the undergrowth. She moved with a grace and power she had never possessed in her human form, her muscles rippling beneath her thick fur. The bloodlust surged through her veins, hot and intoxicating. It whispered promises of power, of freedom, of a primal release she had never dared to imagine. Alara, the woman she once was, felt a million miles away, a distant memory fading with each step she took deeper into the heart of the forest. The beast had awakened, and it was hungry. She stalked through the undergrowth, a silent shadow gliding through the trees. Her senses were on high alert, every fiber of her being focused on the hunt. The scent of her prey grew stronger, urging her forward. A thrill shot through her, a surge of primal excitement. This was her domain now, her kingdom of teeth and claw, and she was the queen. The forest floor was soft beneath her paws, muffling the sound of her approach. She moved with a practiced ease, her body a weapon honed by instinct. The moon, now a brilliant crimson in the sky, cast long, eerie shadows through the trees, painting the world in shades of blood and darkness. The night was alive, pulsing with a dark energy that mirrored the beast within her. The kill. There, in a clearing bathed in moonlight, stood a deer. Its head was down, nibbling at the grass, oblivious to the danger lurking in the shadows. Alara crouched low, her muscles coiled tight, ready to spring. Her breath came in short, sharp pants, each exhale a cloud of steam in the cool night air. The scent of the deer, its fear, its lifeblood filled her nostrils, driving her wild. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the forest, Alara launched herself at the deer. Her claws flashed out, catching the animal in the throat. The deer let out a strangled cry, its eyes wide with terror. Alara savored the kill, the hot, coppery tang of blood filling her mouth. This was power, this was freedom, this was exhilarating. Acceptance. As the adrenaline faded, a strange sense of calm washed over Alara. The horror of the transformation, the pain, the fear, it all seemed distant now, like a bad dream. In its place was a sense of rightness, a feeling of completeness she had never known before. She looked down at the slain deer, at her blood-stained claws, and felt content. This was who she was meant to be, she realized. The beast wasn't a curse, it was a gift, a part of her she had been denying for too long. The moon, once a symbol of dread, now felt like a beacon, a call to embrace her true nature. She threw back her head and howled, a long, mournful sound that echoed through the silent trees. A howl of acceptance, of liberation, of becoming. A new dawn, a new beast. The first rays of dawn pierced through the canopy, painting the forest floor in dappled light. The darkness of the night was slowly being replaced by the gentle embrace of morning light, casting long shadows that danced with the awakening forest. Alara watched as the sun chased away the shadows, the world slowly returning to life after the long, dark night. The forest seemed to breathe with her, each ray of sunlight a promise of renewal and hope. The scent of pine and damp earth filled her nostrils, no longer tainted by fear or bloodlust. She felt different, changed. The air was crisp and fresh, a stark contrast to the suffocating tension of the night before. Stronger, wilder, more alive than she had ever felt before. Her senses were heightened, every sound and scent more vivid, more intense. She felt a connection to the forest, to the earth beneath her feet, that she had never known before. The transformation back to her human form was just as painful as the first time, her bones snapping and reforming, her fur receding, her claws softening back into fingernails. Each moment of agony was a reminder of the beast within her, a beast that was now a part of her very soul. But this time, there was no terror, only a dull ache and a strange sense of anticipation for the next full moon. She knew that this was her new reality, a cycle of transformation and rebirth that she would come to embrace. For she knew that the beast within her was not gone, merely slumbering. It was a part of her now, a powerful force that she could call upon when needed, a guardian and a curse, waiting for the call of the wild to awaken once more. The forest, with its ancient secrets and untamed beauty, would be her sanctuary and her battleground. And as the moonlight bathed the forest in its ethereal glow, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that she was never truly alone. Embrace the Howl. The full moon's curse, she realized, was not a curse at all. It was a blessing, a gift that allowed her to shed the constraints of her humanity and embrace the primal power within. The world would fear her, hunt her, try to destroy her, but she would not be swayed. She had found her truth in the heart of the beast, and she would embrace it with every fiber of her being. The night was hers now, and so was the